You open your textbook, determined to study, and within minutes, boom, your brain suddenly decides it's time to check your phone. Just one more video, you tell yourself, and before you know it, an hour has disappeared. Maybe you convince yourself that you need to clean your desk before you can focus. Or you start reorganizing your notes, and then it hits you, why do we even need to study? What if I just drop everything and become a millionaire? Sounds familiar? Yeah, you're not alone. Most of us have been there, convincing ourselves we're preparing to study, when in reality we're just doing everything but studying. And that's not your fault. Nobody ever really teaches us how to study the right way. We're just told to sit down and focus. But if it were that easy, we'd all be acing our exams without breaking a sweat. But here's the thing, studying can actually be stupidly easy if you know the right way to do it. And today, I'm going to give you the ultimate cheat sheet to mastering any subject at lightning speed. Alright, before we even get into study techniques, let's talk about the biggest reason why studying feels so painfully difficult. It's not because you're lazy. It's not because you're not smart. It's because your brain is addicted to dopamine. Every time you scroll through social media, watch a short video, your brain gets a quick hit of pleasure. Studying, on the other hand, slow, boring, zero dopamine. Your brain hates it. That's why just focusing never works. You have to reset your brain before you even try to study. So here's what you do 30 minutes before studying. Cut out all distractions. No social media, no junk food, no Netflix running in the background. Basically, pretend it's 1995 for a little bit. I know it sounds painful, but trust me, when your brain isn't overstimulated by constant dopamine hits, studying actually starts to feel normal. Okay, so now your brain is ready to study. But there's still one problem: you don't want to start. The longer you sit there thinking about how much work you have to do, the more overwhelming it feels. And that's why you need the 10-minute rule. Instead of telling yourself, ugh, I have to study for hours, just say, I'll study for 10 minutes, and then I can stop if I want to. Sounds dumb, right? But here's the thing, your brain won't fight 10 minutes. It's too easy. But once you start, something weird happens, you keep going. This works because of something called the Zeigarnik effect. Your brain hates leaving things unfinished. So if you can just start, your brain will naturally want to keep going. Now that you're studying, let's talk about the biggest time waster that ruins your efficiency: studying everything instead of studying what actually matters. Most students waste hours reading random parts of their textbook that won't even be on the exam. That's why you need to use the 80-20 rule. Here's the secret: 80% of your results come from just 20% of the material. Instead of reading everything, focus on the most important topics, the ones your professor keeps repeating, the stuff that shows up in past exams. And if you already understand a topic, skip it. Stop reviewing things just to feel productive. Focus on the stuff that actually gets you results. But even after prioritizing the right material, most people still take way too long to study. That's because of Parkinson's law, which basically says, work expands to fill the time you give it. Ever noticed how an assignment that should take 2 hours somehow takes the entire day just because you have the whole day to do it? That's Parkinson's law in action. So here's what you do: give yourself a deadline. Instead of saying, I'll study for as long as it takes, say, I'll finish this chapter in 30 minutes. Your brain will speed up to meet the time limit. It's the same reason why assignments that take weeks magically get finished in one night when the deadline is tomorrow. If you want to study faster, give yourself less time. A little controlled panic is sometimes all you need. Alright, now you're studying smarter and faster, but there's still one last problem: your brain gets bored. You ever study one subject for so long that after an hour, the words stop making sense? That's because your brain stops paying attention when it gets too comfortable. To keep it engaged, use the interleaving effect. Instead of spending 2 hours on one subject, mix things up. Study one subject for 30 minutes, then switch to another for the next 30 minutes. This forces your brain to keep adapting, making learning way more efficient. It's the same reason athletes don't just train one muscle group. You wouldn't spend 2 hours only doing bicep curls unless you're planning to have arms bigger than your entire body. Now, here's something nobody talks about: fake studying. Highlighting your textbook, rereading notes. Yeah, that's not studying. It feels productive, but your brain isn't actually remembering anything. Instead, use active recall. Here's how: close your book and try to recall key concepts from memory. If you can't, that's what you need to review. This method forces your brain to retrieve information, which strengthens your memory way faster than just reading. But what if you need to memorize a ton of information? This is where the memory stack comes in. It's a mix of 3 insanely powerful techniques: the Feynman Technique, where you explain concepts in the simplest way possible; the memory palace, where you attach different subjects to locations in your room; and the 5 sense trick, where you associate studying with with certain sounds, smells, or colors to help you recall information instantly. But none of this matters if your brain is running on empty. If you're still consuming sugar and energy drinks while studying, you're making things way harder for yourself. Sugar gives you a quick energy boost, then crashes your focus. Instead, eat brain-boosting foods like nuts, fish, and berries. They keep your energy steady and your concentration sharp. But after all that effort, if you don't sleep properly, your brain will dump everything like yesterday's spam emails. Because your brain processes and stores information while you sleep. That means pulling all-nighters is a terrible idea. If you want your brain to retain what you learned, you need at least 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Alright, let's have a quick recap before you go. Detox from distractions. Trick your brain into starting with the 10-minute rule. Focus on the most important 20% of the information. Use Parkinson's law to study faster. Keep your brain engaged by switching subjects. Use active recall instead of passive reading. Supercharge your memory with the memory stack. Eat brain food, not sugar. And most importantly, sleep like your grades depend on it. Which of these hacks are you going to try first? Drop a comment below and let's make studying feel illegal together. Hit like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.